Sure, intimacy is important for the perpetuation of the human species. But do we really need to think about it as often as we do? Must it dominate our thoughts, our media, and our sense of identity? This video discusses desire and relationships in a philosophical, psychological, and cultural context. There's no explicit content, and this is a compassionate exploration. Not clickbait, not judgmental, and not a critique of anyone's gender, orientation, or values. I'm not here to moralize, only to seek understanding. Hey guys, Scott Layton here. Welcome to my Expat Life on the Renaissance Spirit channel, a channel for the modern polymath, where we explore subjects of substance and all things related to the human condition. That means philosophy, art, culture, history, psychology, religion, personal development, spiritual evolution, emotional resilience, and yes, today, even sex, or more specifically, the male sex drive, how it operates biologically and culturally, and how it shapes and sometimes distorts how we live, love, and relate. This video may be uncomfortable for some, and if you'd rather immerse yourself, say, in something like sacred scriptural music, we've got that here on the channel too. But if you're still with me, if you're brave enough to sit with this, let's dig in. By the way, this is a voiceover 4K walking tour through downtown Tirana, my current home, at least for the next month. If you want to hear more about my expat journey and everything going on in Albania, check out the full podcast. I wanted to dig into this topic because, as a lonely expat, relationships and sex drives have been on my mind a lot. Thinking about relationships, connection, and, let's be honest, sex. And whatever your situation or stage in life, I'm willing to bet you've been thinking about these things too. And I know I'm not alone. Why a voiceover? Because honestly, I don't know if I could deliver this to the camera with a straight face or without looking like an embarrassed idiot. Let's start with biology. We're told that men are biologically wired to think about intimacy far more frequently than women. The idea that men are constantly distracted by desire, it's not just a stereotype, it's backed by data. According to Healthline, around 95% of men report having daily thoughts related to physical intimacy. Columbia University's health site, Go Ask Alice, explains that spontaneous physiological responses can occur multiple times per day, often unrelated to direct attraction or conscious arousal. Hims.com reports that men may experience a dozen or more of these responses daily. Uninvited, unhelpful, like pop-up ads, but hormonal. Apparently, the male body still thinks it's living in a prehistoric fertility race, even if the rest of us are just trying to make it through Monday. And if you've ever wondered how many times a man can, well, engage in release, some sources estimate several in 24 hours. The accuracy varies, but let's just say it's more than most would expect, and far more than is needed for actual human connection. We're talking about biology on autopilot even when the emotional or relational need is long gone. So why? Hormones, evolution, reward systems. Testosterone is one of the primary drivers of male libido. It exists in quantities roughly 10 to 20 times greater in men than in women. This hormone increases competitiveness, lowers inhibition, and primes the body for readiness. From an evolutionary standpoint, the male body was designed to be opportunistic because there's no biological cycle like there is for female fertility. The system is always on, biologically at least. That's not a moral claim, it's just science. And this is why visual stimuli play such a major role for many men. It bypasses logic and goes straight to the emotional brain. You react before you think, sometimes instead of thinking at all. But biology doesn't act alone. Culture has taken over the wheel. So the real question is, why do we think about sex this much? Is it nature, is it nurture, or have we been trained to? If biology lit the fire, culture poured gasoline on it, handed us a smartphone, and started selling ad space. We live in a world engineered to stimulate your attention and monetize your desire. From advertising to music, media, and platforms, everything is built around dopamine hits, impulsive behavior, and constant emotional stimulation. Online content, dating platforms, even thumbnails, they're not just informative. They're designed to trigger, to keep you engaged through imagery and suggestion. And the result? Many people now consume more adult content than clean water. That's not a joke. It's a reflection of how accessible and normalized it's become. Dating apps present an illusion of connection, but often lead to emotional withdrawal. These apps reward short attention spans, reduce real intimacy to swiping, and push everyone towards surface-level engagement. We've turned your natural desire into someone else's product. This isn't just instinct, it's commercialized stimulation. And most of us don't even realize how much mental real estate it's taking up. Not all intimacy in media is empty, but much of it is designed to exploit, not elevate. It's not accidental. It's profitable. Every ad is whispering, "You're not enough, but maybe this product will make you desirable." Now add capitalism. We've got an entire industry focused on enhancing libido, from supplements to medications, but almost nothing to help people manage or moderate that desire. Why? Because self-control doesn't sell. Inner peace doesn't drive clicks. Moderation isn't monetized. And this brings us to pharmaceuticals. We have entire global industries built around enhancing stimulation, but almost no tools or guidance for people who simply want to slow things down. Some medications like SSRIs may reduce libido, but that's treated as a side effect, not a feature. Others exist but are rarely discussed, and definitely not advertised. Because restraint doesn't sell, contentment doesn't sell, only craving sells. And yes, if you've seen Love and Other Drugs, you know about the cultural moment around the little blue pill. Fun fact, I was actually an extra in that movie. Don't believe me? Look it up on YouTube, I'll wait. So now we have biology, overstimulation, and industry. So, are we naturally this obsessed, or have we been trained to be? No one's really asking what this does to us. We don't ask how it affects relationships, or mental health, or whether this is actually making anyone happier. Spoiler, it's not. In fact, many people are opting out of relationships altogether. After years of ghosting, burnout, unmet expectations, and performance anxiety, it's no wonder people feel like the only reliable currency left is physical access. Even that is often disappointing. So what happens to a culture that's overstimulated but underconnected? We lose our attention span, we lose discipline, we confuse gratification with meaning, we get lonelier, and instead of reaching for connection, we just keep reaching. Now let's talk about relationships. In heterosexual relationships, male libido is often balanced by the emotional pacing of a female partner. That can create tension, but also balance, communication, and growth. But in male-male dynamics, the challenge is different. You have two visually driven libidos interacting without much social pressure to slow down. This often results in fast escalation, casual dynamics, and a never-ending search for novelty. It's not about shallowness, it's about chemistry, culture, and environment. When emotion and connection don't filter desire, it turns into a loop where emotional intimacy becomes an afterthought. On the other side, women, especially in straight culture, are expected to both provoke and regulate male desire. Be attractive, but not too much. Be sexual, but not forward. Be open, but not easy. It's exhausting and unfair. And men are stuck too, told to always want it, told they're failures if they don't, told their value is measured by performance, not emotional presence. So when the fantasy of intimacy doesn't deliver the emotional nourishment promised, men often collapse inward. They ghost, they shut down, they spiral into disconnection or overcompensation. This isn't toxic masculinity, this is malnourished identity. It's emotional starvation disguised as confidence. So let's clarify something important. Moderation is not suppression, and the two are very different. Moderation, what the ancient Greeks called sophrosyne, is the ability to know your limits and live with balance. It means feeling a desire and choosing how to respond, not being consumed by it. Suppression is about shame and hiding, and that doesn't work because repressed desire usually finds its way back in less healthy ways. And from a spiritual lens, the more distracted we are by our own desires, the harder it is to hear the quiet voice of the soul. Wisdom speaks softly, and we miss it in noise. Let's remember Freud. Despite some odd theories, he wasn't wrong that unexamined desire drives unconscious behavior. In today's hyper-digital world, he might say we're being manipulated at a subconscious level, constantly. Freud was flawed, but not entirely wrong. And remember Dr. Ruth? She helped normalize healthy conversations around intimacy, but she lived in a world before smartphones, social media, and infinite scrolling. She believed openness would solve everything, but she couldn't have predicted the industrialization of desire we face now. She wasn't wrong, just incomplete for today's reality. Now let's talk about when desire turns compulsive. There's a condition once called nymphomania, and now more accurately called hypersexual disorder, where people feel unable to stop. Not just a high drive, but something that affects daily life, relationships, work, and health. This isn't about judgment, it's about regulation. And there's also body dysmorphia, especially common when people are exposed to constant images of idealized bodies. We start seeing ourselves as defective or unlovable, based on standards no one can meet. In kinks, most are healthy and harmless. They often arise from curiosity, association, or exploration, but they can become disruptive if they replace intimacy or are used to mask emotional wounds. None of this is about shame, it's about integration. Now zoom out. The pendulum throughout history has swung from indulgence to suppression. Ancient Greece valued balance, sophrosyne. Rome, indulgence, spectacle, collapse. Christianity swung back towards celibacy, but not always out of shame. Sometimes it was about clearing distractions to find spiritual clarity. The Victorians buried desire in lace and euphemism. The 20th century gave us birth control, pride, sex positivity. But now we've gone beyond liberation into numbness. So where are we now? Somewhere between digital Rome and dopamine Athens. Overstimulated, underconnected, and still thinking about sex all the time. Now the final question. What does this cost us? Time, energy, creativity, focus, peace. The brain can only hold so many thoughts. If desire takes up too much room, everything else is squeezed out. Creativity, clarity, connection. You can't build a life of depth when you're stuck in a loop of distraction. Desire isn't bad, it's just loud and wisdom speaks more softly. So what's helped me? Step back from sexualized media. Less scrolling, less exposure. Come back to your body through stillness, cold water, breath, movement, prayer. Reframe desire as energy. Redirect it into art, service, learning. Practice compassion. You're just living in a world designed to overstimulate you. This is something most of us are trying to figure out, including me. This isn't about abstinence, though that's one path. It's about discipline, presence, and choosing depth over dopamine. It's about understanding what drives you and making compassionate, reasoned choices for yourself and for others. Sex isn't your identity, desire isn't your worth, and moderation isn't shame, it's freedom. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you gave this energy to something higher? Curiosity, compassion, truth. What would we become if we weren't thinking about sex all the time? I'm Scott Layton. This is my expat life on the Renaissance Spirit. Thanks for walking with me through this vulnerable and vital topic. If this sparked something, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Desire isn't the problem. Disconnection is, I'm trying to build more than a channel. We're building a community of like-minded modern-day polymaths here, so if you know of any, please share. And if you're someone who doesn't feel this constant pull, that's okay too. There's no one way to be human, but there are ways to be fully human in a world that makes us question our worth and how to act. For more on that, watch The Social Contract of the Commons next. Let's stop asking what turns us on and start asking what makes us whole.